Chapter 37. Lin Hai's Fury. I am going to kill you. Lin Hong shouted. Frozen shadows. The atmosphere became deathly silent, and as the temperature started to drop drastically, the ground was starting to freeze solid. An unusual snow started to fall from the sky, shadow snowflakes. They completely surrounded the arena, and some even started to whirl around Lin Hong, creating what looked like a shield of snow. The temperature continued to drop lower and lower until everything within sight had started to freeze over. If you want to kill me, you first need to have the skills to do it, said Lin Feng as snow continued to fall heavily onto him. His eyebrows were frosty, which made them look white, but his eyes were like black holes which consumed all life from the atmosphere around him. He stood in place unmoving and as calm as ever. He took a step forward and the whole stage began to shake. Not only the stage but the earth beneath began to tremble violently. The energy contained within Lin Feng's qi had not weakened within this world of snow, but it had also become much stronger than ever before. Increasing the energy within his qi led to increased strength. Lin Feng was determined to finish Lin Hong off quickly by using all of his power. He started to absorb the force contained within the ice and snow, then concentrated all of the force into his fist and the tip of his sword. He was not only using the force from the snow and ice within the area but was also borrowing force from heaven and earth. The force which he had absorbed to this point was on a terrifying level. Lin Feng concentrated force into his left fist while his right arm would thrust out and create earth-shattering thunderous roars in the direction of Lin Hong. The power of his roaring thunder was growing more and more terrifying with each thrust of his sword. His attacks had started to look like real lightning bolts bursting through the air. It seemed like the entire snow-filled atmosphere was getting cut into pieces by the power of thunder and lightning. Lin Hong's pupils shrunk in shock. Lin Feng's sword was even more powerful now than just a moment before. The snow atmosphere created was intended to weaken his attack power, not increase it. Not only were his attacks growing stronger, but they also emanated a strong force. It seemed like the force of all the elements were becoming sword force which consumed the snow, adding to its power. Lin Hong raised both his hands up in the air. Lin Hong wasn't underestimating Lin Feng's power any longer. He started using a strong qi of ice and snow, which began to fill the air before disappearing into Lin Feng's sword. Lin Hong could not believe his eyes. His power was being absorbed and converted into the opponent's attack power. Anything that stands in the way of a swordmaster will be annihilated. There is no power which can dominate the sword, said Lin Feng. He made another step and his sword started radiating light. The power contained within the tip of this sword looked more powerful than anything within heaven and earth. Lin Feng began walking towards Lin Hong. With each step a thunderous roar filled the air as his sword thrust against the snow between him and Lin Hong. Lin Hong stepped back, and then stepped back again. He was unconsciously retreating as his body could sense the danger. Lin Hong looked like he had just seen a ghost. His face was incredibly pale. At that moment, the entire crowd was absolutely amazed at what they could see. Lin Feng was continuing to advance while Lin Hong retreated. How is this even possible? How could Lin Feng be so strong? Lin Hong has broken through to the Ling Qi layer, yet he continues to retreat from Lin Feng's sword. The crowd did not know how to explain the fact that Lin Feng was so unbelievably strong. The difference between the Qi layer and the Ling Qi layer wasn't small. It was a huge gap which required a cultivator to be extremely talented to overcome the difference in power, and to do it at such a young age required a true genius. How could Lin Feng, the trash of the Lin clan, have become a genius in such a short time? Lin Ba Dao was even more astonished. His face had become extremely twisted and ugly. His killing intent towards Lin Feng had grown even stronger. Lin Hai looked amazed. He had a big smile on his face and a proud look in his eyes. No wonder Lin Feng had so much confidence. He was so strong when using a sword. It seemed like Lin Feng had hidden his true strength his entire life. It seems like little Feng has never released his spirit. If his spirit awakens, what kind of spectacle would it be? Thought Lin Hai. His thoughts were racing. He felt endlessly gratified. It seemed like he was witnessing the abrupt rise of his son. It seemed like his son wasn't a piece of trash actually, but rather a legend in the making. Lin Hai glanced at Lin Ba Dao in a teasing way. Lin Hong was going insane. He was shouting like a madman while trying to create another snow-based barrier. Why are you shouting? Asked Lin Feng while smiling coldly. The qi of the sword was rolling in the atmosphere, creating strong gusts of wind which conquered anything that came into their path. Lin Hong had no chance to win any longer. Every attack he used would only strengthen the force contained within Lin Feng's sword. Lin Feng's sword made a whistling sound. The qi of Lin Hong's snow shield was destroyed by Lin Feng's sword again. This time, however, Lin Hong wasn't able to withstand the full attack. His clothes were ripping into pieces and blood was dripping down his body. The sword had not struck him, but the qi from the attack had caused him to end up in such a sorry state. Lin Hong could feel a chill running down his spine as his body grew cold. It was the first time that his own qi had made him feel cold, so cold that it was chilling him to the bone. Even more shocking, the qi which injured him was his own. Not only was he injured, but his life was now at stake. Lin Feng's sword had no mercy contained within. If there was a single opportunity, Lin Feng would kill him. That's right. At that moment, Lin Hong became aware of how dangerous the situation had become for him. Until now, he had thought that he would be able to attack Lin Feng without retaliation, able to take Lin Feng's life, but he had never thought that the situation would be the exact opposite. Lin Hong hated himself for not practicing his agility techniques. He could not see a way for him to retreat from this situation. All of Lin Feng's attacks were flawless. He was in complete fusion his sword chi. Boom! A strong wind destroyed the snow-filled atmosphere. Lin Feng had started to move and the atmosphere itself was twisting and exploding. It looked like the apocalypse and the only thing left standing within was a single sword. This looks dangerous. Lin Ba Dao looked glum and shouted, "You animal, you are clearly stronger, don't you dare." "Shut up, Lin Ba Dao, have you forgotten that you were the one who suggested this situation? Now that Lin Hong is not able to defeat Lin Feng, you want to intervene?" said Lin Hai, preventing Lin Ba Dao from getting involved. He moved and seemed to disappear. He was instantly in front of Lin Ba Dao. He no longer had any mercy left for Lin Ba Dao. He had given up hope. Even if Lin Hai still had friendly feelings for Lin Ba Dao from the past, Lin Ba Dao bore a bitter hatred for him and his son. Considering Lin Ba Dao wanted to take Lin Feng's life, Lin Hai could only be just as ruthless. Lin Hong gave a horrible shriek, making Lin Ba Dao's face change drastically. "Out of my way," he shouted as he tried to move past Lin Hai. "Don't imagine you can act as you wish with such little power." Lin Hai released his spirit. It seemed like the universe had frozen and time had stopped. Lin Ba Dao had frozen over where he stood. "I am not in the mood anymore, since you and your direct family constantly tries to take my life. You should just die here." Lin Feng was gazing at Lin Hong, who was covering his wounds, trying to prevent the blood from spilling onto the stage. Lin Feng looked completely heartless at this moment. He watched Lin Hong with a cold smile on his face. Lin Feng looked like he was deciding whether to chop him in half horizontally or vertically. "Don't you dare," shouted a fragile voice. It was Lin Qian. Her ice and fire spirit burst out of her body. Lin Feng had the sensation he was burning and freezing at the same time. Lin Qian was quickly approaching him. "Get lost." Lin Feng turned around. He thrust out his sword and unleashed all of the contained force and an endless amount of qi. Boom! The ice and fire filling the atmosphere dispersed in an instant. "Die!" shouted a cold voice from behind him. Before Lin Feng could turn around, a sword had already pierced his throat. An extremely strong power was unleashed within the atmosphere and Lin Feng was sent flying backwards. Blood began to spray endlessly from his throat as he flew through the air. "You have no integrity and no morals," Lin Hai shouted in a long and mournful cry. While Lin Hai was preventing Lin Ba Dao from getting involved, Lin Zhen rushed to the stage and used the opportunity to cut Lin Feng's jugular. You are listening to Peerless Martial God audio on light novel Aloud. Ice Age. Lin Hai had gone into a rage. The entire atmosphere froze. Lin Zhen had a gloomy face as he sensed an incomparably strong ice chi strike him in the face. Everyone in the crowd had been frozen into place. "Help me," shouted Lin Zhen. It was already too late. Lin Hai's palm was already in front of him and then smashed down into his chest. His pupils were wide open while staring at Lin Hai. "You, actually, dared to kill me." Blood was uninterruptedly spilling out of Lin Zhen's mouth. Lin Hai didn't just attack Lin Zhen's chest but had sent his ice chi into his body, which had destroyed most of his organs. Lin Hai had already sealed Lin Zhen's fate. "Lin Zhen, you attacked my son by surprise, I will never forgive you." Lin Hai's tone was extremely cold. Lin Hai's hand was shaking with anger. Lin Zhen's eyes were wide open and staring at Lin Hai with hatred and resentment as he slowly died. Everyone looked as rigid as statues. Had the Lin Zhen been killed so easily? At that moment, the entire crowd looked at Lin Hai. Their eyes were filled with fear. Only an extraordinary strength of this level could bring terror to the hearts of everyone present. Was there really such a monster within the Lin clan? At that moment, Lin Ba Dao didn't dare move a finger. Lin Hai turned around and looked at Lin Qian and said in a cold and detached tone, "A genius of the Hao Yu sect? A genius of the Snow Shadow Mountain village? Both of you are shameless trash." Lin Qian bit her lips. She could see Lin Hai's murderous intentions. She didn't dare say a word. He started walking. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Everyone feared that a single sound could cause the deaths of everyone present. He was moving towards Lin Qian because Lin Hong had lost the battle, but Lin Zhen as well as Lin Qian had attacked Lin Feng by surprise. When they thought that Lin Hong would be able to defeat Lin Feng, they wanted to push the battles as far as possible without the possibility of surrender, hoping that Lin Feng would die. When they found out that nothing was happening the way they had expected, they wanted to get involved and attacked Lin Feng by surprise and cut his throat. How could Lin Hai not be furious? "What do you intend to do?" Lin Qian asked, staring at Lin Hai. "Exterminate you all," said Lin Hai with a clear voice. At that moment, nothing could calm his anger. End of chapter 37. Hope you guys enjoy the chapter. Please consider subscribing and hit that bell button for future updates.